Hey everybody, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Well, it's time for our talk about TWIA. I'm here with Chandra with Aaron and Franklin, but she also sits on the board. And for Chandra, I think the last month and a half, it's been nothing but talking about TWIA insurance and the rate increase. So there's an important public meeting that's coming up September 23rd at 9 a.m. Let's talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to overlay this letter so that people can read it and get the address and stuff. And why is this so important?
Hi, David. Good morning. So the meeting that's coming up on September 23rd is actually by TDI. So TWIA made their rate filing on before the required date, which was August 15th. Mm-hmm. And the commissioner has a couple of months in order to review that and decide if she's going to put that in place. And this is the first time that in my tenure on the board that I have seen the commissioner ask for a public meeting to discuss the potential rate increase before they make a decision. That's pretty big. That's pretty big news. So she's obviously having some, deliberations on whether or not she should approve this. And so I think it's very important that we definitely make public comments. There is an email address, TWIA rate comments at tdi.texas.gov. And then, but if you can, please show up at Moody Gardens on September 23rd at 9 a.m. to make your voice heard, because it's very important that they get that public feedback. And while emailing in or writing in is really important also, I think it's very important that they see these faces of people that are going to be directly impacted by this 10% increase. So, we have this avenue to appeal to the commissioner and give her our feedback and tell her how this impacts us. And usually at these meetings, you have a 3-minute window where you can speak. And it's really important that you try to be concise, know exactly what you want to say, maybe take a few little notes and hit those points, because they will probably be very strict about the timeline. We have 3 minutes, but I usually kind of, depends on what's being said and all that. But we always let legislators go kind of however long they want. And then the public, we try to rein it in. If it goes 3.5, 4 minutes, I start kind of giving them the high sign, but they will probably hold everybody in the 3 minutes. I imagine this is going to be a very, very well attended meeting, because there's so much public outcry against this 10% increase along the coast. And then they're going to do it again at the end of the week on Friday down in Corpus, so that area, that region can actually also come and have their public comments. So I think this is a really important meeting. I think that it shows that the commissioner is really listening to what's happening along the coast, how it's going to impact everyone, and really weighing that decision before she approves or denies that 10% increase. So I think this is definitely the time to make our voices heard.
From my standpoint, we had a comment on one of the feeds we did from a homeowner that said, my insurance has already increased because his home value went up, so he had to get more insurance. And It went up, I forget how much, 10 or 13%.
I think 10% is, that's a lot.
Yeah, you remember me talking about it. Well, now we've got this that is another 10%. And so theoretically, his insurance could go up 20%.
Right.
Before this is all over with. And when you're already paying high costs, that stops people from buying homes. It stops, which then, if it's a short-term rental, it gets into our short-term rental. And, here on Bolivar, for the tourism is a big employee down here for the restaurants and the stores and the shops and stuff. And it's already gotten to where people can't afford to come down here to live, to work at the restaurants or work at the store or someplace, because houses are so expensive. And then, if you can afford the house, then it comes to the insurance, and that can double your note. It's, sometimes.
Exactly.
And so, it's getting to where it's really hurting not only the homeowner, but it's hurting the businesses.
Well, and TWIA's position was, well, you don't have to take the ABC. You don't have to take the, adjusted building, cost adjustment. The problem is if you don't, then you're really not covered.
You're
not,
underinsured.
if something happens, you're underinsured and you're not going to be able to rebuild your home back to the way it was, and you're not going to be made whole. So you either have to pay more so that you know that you can be made whole, or you have to roll the dice and hope that you don't get up to your policy limit and damages, because you won't get anything beyond that. So it's a gamble. I'm a gambler, but I'm not that much of a gambler, not when it comes to my home and repairing my home. So we just can't keep adding more and more and more and more on this. And I think this meeting will be a good opportunity for us to not only say, no, we don't want an increase, but really push our legislators to figure out a new way to fund TWIA so that it does not have to come from policyholders, or we get to share with the insurance industry. They will come in and help us if we get to a point where we need to have funds, put into the coffers to pay claims. It's just a matter of changing the funding structure more than anything, because their first line of defense, the first thing that they pay money out of, expenses and everything, is policyholder premium.
Right.
And that's the first thing. So that's the first thing that they're going to raise. I mean, they're not going to say, oh, well, we're going to keep everything low, and then, the insurance industry will just have to pick up more later. They don't want to do that.
Right.
And they have more lobbyists than we do. I mean, we have to lobby for ourselves, we have to be our own advocates. So it's really, really important that the public attend these meetings. Go take your friends, go have early breakfast, have coffee, and then go to that meeting, because it is going to be really, really important. And if you can't get over there, if you have to work, or if you're, unable to make that, be sure and make your public comment. It's an email. You can draft it, because I can tell you, when we get emails on public meetings, we get every single piece of correspondence that comes from a legislator, from an individual, and I read every single thing before the meeting. And it's usually hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages. And in this last one, it was 1,500 responses. So, it took me a while to go through it. Right. And, a lot of it's very similar. And, but when you get to people and you read their stories and you see where they're coming from, it's very, you're responsible for TWIA and making sure that it's solvent and it can pay claims. But on the flip side, it's like you have to have some empathy for all these people that are having to be the ones to fork out the money to do that. And it's tough,
Well, if you're wanting to take a trip, you can go to the one in Galveston and then load your buddies up and register again down in Corpus.
That's right. Take a little field trip.
Go down there and visit the Corpus area. Hit the public meeting, make your comment there, and that way you're heard in both areas.
Right.
I know some of the state people, they'll go from one to the other just to listen. And, I know Mays has been involved, and Brandon Creighton, and everyone, Terry Wilson, they've all been involved with this, because of the areas that they cover in that. And it's, now's the time to make your comment. Even if you sent an email in, maybe to your legislature or someone, now's the time that you can make another comment, and
That's
be
right.
heard as a policyholder and, your life down on the coast, because we have a lot of retired people down here, and they're on a limited income. And when this keeps going up, then they can't afford it, and we're gonna lose some homeowners down here just because of the cost.
That's right. It's, and Corpus is usually a very well attended meeting, and the Corpus Christi community, their Chamber of Commerce, their Port Authority, like all their local people and Corpus are very, very engaged and involved in TWIA. So I imagine that they're going to be there and bring a lot of their constituents, since they're actually going to be in Corpus Christi. So it's going to be a really well attended, I think in both locations. And so I'm very appreciative that they're, taking this opportunity to try to listen to the public, because I believe she has until October 15th to make a decision. So this gives her still a couple of weeks to weigh that information,
Right.
and before she makes a decision. So I appreciate the fact that she's taking it very, very seriously, is opening up this information to the public and letting us make one more appeal to try to stop this 10% increase. The only people that voted against it were the coastal people. There was 3 coastal people, and 6 of everybody else did not vote. I mean, 3 that are insurance industry members, and 3 that are inland that are in other industries.
Right.
And they all voted for it. But they don't have to live with the consequences of it.
Right.
We do. And so that's why the 3 coastal people were like, absolutely not. Like, it shouldn't happen. And you get to the industry members, and they're like, oh, well, they're thinking about what happens if we don't take the rate, then we may move into that layer of funding where they have to pay. And that's where the conflict comes in. So that's why the funding structure really, really needs to change.
Well, and then if something happens and she passed it through, and said, yes, we're going to do the 10% increase, we still have one more line of defense,
right?
Which is
the governor can set it aside. Yeah, the governor can set it aside. He has done that before, and this is an election year, so he may be more inclined to do so, being that it is an election year, and you don't want all your constituents mad at you if you're going into election time. So and that's just the power that we have as the people. We have to make our voices heard, and we have to make our votes, vote in people that will appoint the commissioners that will align with, the overall coast. And when it comes to meetings like, topics like this, we can't just say, oh, well, they need more money to pay claims, they need more money to be solvent, we need to give them 10%. Well, let's not just put a Band-Aid on the problem, right? Let's fix the problem. Let's fix the problem. And that's going to require a lot of people putting their heads together, compromising, and getting some real substantial legislation passed to fix TWIA. It's got to change. Okay.
Well, I can tell you, we're not done with these TWIA shows. We're about ready for something else once all this gets done. But we're going to stay connected to it. And actually, it has to be turned in by the 15th of October, which is the day after Columbus Day, if I'm not mistaken, looking at my calendar. And so we've got some more shows planned. We do these shows every Friday so that we can keep you connected. And it's just fallen into place that we've been talking about the TWIA insurance saga for about the last month and a half now. So, Chandra, thanks for joining us today, and thanks for getting me the information. Here it is again for those that want to email or want to attend the meetings. You can see it here. I'll cover up my mug and let y'all get the information. And we'll be back next week with another show. I'm sure it's going to be on TWIA. Might be talking about what's happening out in the Caribbean and that.
It's getting a little spicy out there
so far. We're actually recording this on the 4th, and so we'll watch over the next 2 to 3 weeks and see what happens. So, Chandra, thanks for joining us today. Thank you all for watching. Remember, you can see these shows on our social media channels and on Bolivar Live on Roku and Amazon Fire TV under Aaron and Franklin. So we're going to head on out. Hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, I'm David with Bolivar Live. Y'all have a great day, great week. Come see us. God bless, and bye-bye.